folks, and welcome back to BikeDriveMN X. And I'm taking along with me today because we're going to take a route that I normally don't take, which would be kind of nice. Change of scenery for you and me. And that brings up some things I want to talk about other than this Jeep doing 10 over the speed limit over here. Cyclist 2. Good time to start the video. Let's see how this is going to be managed. Cyclists get 3 feet. Goes both ways though. They can't, well, they're not supposed to filter if it's less than 3 feet, but they do. There's a Cadillac zooming up on my left. What are they going to do here? Got to watch in 3 directions at once. This person pulling out. What's that all about? Anyway, that was an interesting start to the episode. So what was I saying? Oh yes. Different scenery today, which is why I'm bringing you along with me. I'm going to run an errand after work. And I'm going to take a very busy route in comparison to normal. And again, there's a pausing in my talking when I'm concentrating. I was concentrating on the cyclist who's following all the rules except they're on a stop sign. Although, that being said, I am a cyclist as well. And why is this person parked in the bike lane? They park there a lot. I see them a couple times a week. Anyway, I do wish that Minnesota would adopt the Idaho stop law for cyclists, where if there's no traffic, you can keep going, because a cyclist, 180-pound person on a 30-pound bike is not going to do any damage if they roll through a stop sign, unlike a 735 2,000-pound car. Do they have any 2,000-pound cars? I don't know. Anyway, I kind of wish they'd adopt that law. As a cyclist myself, which you see those videos on my channel, I do stop at stop signs just because it's the law, but it's very exhausting because of, you know, perpetual motion and such. Anyway, so the main thing I was going to talk about before I got sidetracked by cyclists is when you're going somewhere different, know where you're going ahead of time. Do not rely on GPS for the planning stage. Look ahead, look where you're going, know where you're going, so you're not caught in a left lane when you gotta take southbound on a freeway or something. And just be aware of where you're going. And even though I'm going to an area I'm familiar with, I did check the map to make sure I would have my lane change timed, because I have to turn left at the next block after we turn right onto a very wide 4-lane busy road, which isn't as bad as it sounds, but you'll see when we get there. So that was the main thing I wanted to bring up, which I haven't talked about yet, is knowing where you're going ahead of time. At least have some idea, so you're not surprised. GPS is helpful, but GPS should not be your primary source of direction. For example, when I'm planning a route, what I'll do is if I have a turn coming up, I'll look at the road before. So let's say I'm going to turn on Washington Avenue. I know the road then that comes before, so I can plan ahead. So I'm not doing those things where you're driving at 5 miles an hour looking for the road and traffic is building up behind you. I see there's the road, I know the next one is my turn, things like that. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's just, you know, a safety responsible thing, and that's what this YouTube channel is all about, is being safe and responsible. So there's an idea next time you're planning a trip. Now, we are going to cut through neighborhood. Like I said, I hate doing. I feel it's rude for the reasons I mentioned in the first episode. But the reason why we're going to cut through neighborhood is to avoid a very scary, dangerous left turn. That is a stop sign for us, but uncontrolled for the other 3 directions. And you have to turn left across a busy road with multiple lanes and people speeding and everything like that. So we're going to go through this neighborhood here, providing the person's going to stop. Jesus Louise. But we're not going to go very fast. We're going to respect the neighborhood, and we're going to be cautious and slow. This sign bugs me. Cross traffic from right doesn't stop. And the reason why that bothers me is because when you're at a T, an uncontrolled T, the terminated traffic has, or the force to turn traffic has to yield to through traffic. So if an uncontrolled intersection, the the traffic on the right has a right-of-way, right? But at an uncontrolled T, the traffic that has to turn must yield to through traffic regardless if you're on the right or not. So back there, traffic from the right should be forced to yield by law, but then they put these signs up saying they don't stop, which is very confusing because that completely goes against Minnesota law. So if I'm approaching from where I was, it says cross traffic doesn't stop, so who cares? Because according to the law, they have to yield to straight traffic, to through traffic, regardless of the side that they're on. I know I said that like 3 times, but I tried to explain it 3 different ways. So that sign has always bugged me because it goes opposite of law. Just like cycling laws. In Minnesota, cyclists have a right to take the road as long as it's not a freeway, and they can ride 2x2 as long as they're not obstructing traffic. But certain suburbs in here say if there is a bike trail next to the road, a cyclist must take the bike trail. But that goes against Minnesota law, and Minnesota law overrides city law for the most part, if you had to fight it anyway. So it's just frustrating and confusing for drivers. And the reason why that bothers me is because the suburbs that has the law that cyclists have to use the bike trail, the trails are built in 1956, and they're full of potholes, and they're dirt, and they're sand, and anybody who rides them will get a flat tire and a bent rim within a couple of miles. So they're not even rideable trails, but they have this law that you have to take it. It's a mess. Not much I can do about it. Cyclist clubs are trying to fight things like that, but this double left turn lane bothers me because you see on the right that green stripe, that is to warn drivers that cyclists take that, but you're supposed to drive in it, and people don't. They drive to the left of it, which means this 2-lane turn becomes a 1-lane turn because you get pinched out. So let's see if this car drives in the right spot, and they kind of did. That's good, but normally you get pinched out there, and it's really frustrating. And up here the right lane ends. So it always confuses me why people would use the right left turn lane if they need to get in the left lane right away, because normally this is much more congested. But it's not so bad today. But normally people are squeezing in here, acting surprised when they know darn well that the lane ends. They actually used to have a sign here that said right turn only except bikes, and then they redid the bike lanes. Silence again because I'm trying to figure out what's going on up here. And that person's going around using the yellow lines. Just be patient. You only save 1.5 seconds. So speed limit here is 25. Medina has a lot of these boulevards where we've got bike lane and slow traffic for traffic calming, but people just go really fast. So I'm doing 25 miles an hour on the nose, and these cars up here are going much faster. And reason to go faster. This light always changes. Cross traffic with cyclists actually trip this light, which is wonderful. So there's a speed sign up here. Let's see how fast this person's going. Can't quite see that far. 32 into 25. This is what we're doing. 25 into 25. Look at that. 26. Ooh, no, that's a car behind me catching up. I'm actually using cruise control, by the way. The person behind me finally backed off and they realized I'm not going to exceed the speed limit. Do not let yourself get intimidated by drivers behind you trying to push you. If you feel like you're in a dangerous, scary situation, just pull over. I normally don't advocate letting aggressive drivers get their way, but it's sure better to let them get their way than deal with an accident or something like that, right? Another roundabout. People always miss this and blow through here. And we need to make our left or our right turn. Then we have to make a left turn at the next block and cross over a bunch of lanes. But I wonder if they're going to do that. So here they have the bike lane in the middle to join the road up there. They redid this entire intersection. It's so much better than it used to be. It used to be multiple lanes coming together and merging, and it was really scary. Yet they had a bike route sign there, and that's not what I would want to do for a bike route. So we're legally changing 3 lanes by going 1 lane at a time, looking, 1 lane at a time, looking. Darting across several lanes is not legal. driver. I didn't think she was actually going to keep going. She did right on the shoulder, though. Oh well. Parking lots. Even though the chance of an injury accident is low in a parking lot, the chance of an accident, period, is extremely high in a parking lot. I hate parking lots. It's scary. Especially when pedestrians take the least direct route across, which is fine, but when they take the least direct route across the street, it's kind of like, Alright, so we're at our destination. I'm going to go run an errand, and I'll be back faster than you can hit the pause button. Alright, and we're back as promised. And back up here, I do have a rear camera, which is really nice and helpful, but it is not my primary way to back up. I don't rely on the camera. It's just an added tool. It's not the primary way of backing up. Just thought I'd throw that in there. And all these people technically have the right of way, although they're driving so slowly. I guess I'm gonna go. Alright, and that's with any of these gadgets that cars are having now. They're tools to help and aid and assist, but they're not primary. Notice I'm stopping behind the crosswalk here. Although people seem to want to use them as their primary sources of safety, and it's not. And they change the lanes now. Only for assistance. Alright, here we go. So, middle lane is the worst place to be, but I have to take it because the right lane ends and the left lane is going to be for freeway access. Even though I live in Minneapolis, there is other ways I could take that look shorter on a map, but because of traffic, I'm going to take France to the road that you've seen in previous episodes to get across. Because of construction and things, this other road, which would be the fastest, normally gets backed up for miles, and then people want to cut through, so they'll take the turn lane and just go straight through the turn lane. They don't want to wait. Whenever people try to merge when a lane ends and people punish them, the people doing the punishing are in the wrong. You're supposed to take a lane until it ends. That's the reason why it's there. And then you zipper merge at the end. The Minnesotans don't get that. They think you should exit the lane miles ahead of time. Then why would they build the lane if you're supposed to exit miles ahead of time? I don't know, but that's what people do in Minnesota. We're just going to stay here and ride it out till it ends, because that's what it's designed for. Notice I'm lining up now, though, too. See, I'm not zooming up to the end like all these people did. I'm planning my merge ahead of time. And there you go. Just like that. By the book. This used to be an unpainted road, and people would make it into 2 lanes each way, and there were so many accidents and collisions. It was crazy, so they finally painted it. That's a holdover from 60 years ago, when you would consider roads multiple lanes without there being lines, but that isn't true so much anymore. There's another road they did that too also, where people would make it into 2 lanes each way, but it was too narrow, so people ended up driving on the sidewalk on the inside lane and hitting pedestrians. So they painted that and put bump outs so you couldn't cheat. Everybody complained that they're taking away a lane, so the county rolled back and said there's never been a lane there, people. We had to paint it to show you. That was kind of funny. I was very entertained by that. But look at that person making a turn lane out of the little tiny shoulder. That is not a turn lane. People do it all the time. They'll make a shoulder into a turn lane. Happens everywhere. Y'all see it every day. It's not a turn lane. Don't turn. Don't use it to turn. It's a shoulder. But anyway, what I was going to say is if this is green for a while, I almost get rented all the time because people want me like driving the grass to make my turn, and you're not. You turn from the lane, you don't turn from the shoulder, just like that. Plus this is so sharp, if you turn from the shoulder, you end up on the other side of the road anyway. Basic geometry, I think, anyway. So there you have it. Short episode today, at least compared to the other ones. Hope you enjoy, and I will see you on the next Drive Defensive with me.